Bonjour, hi, Canada. Greetings to all of you. I'm Hugh Hewitt. And of course, it is Thursday, May 14th, in the year of the virus 2020. 84,765 Americans have died as a result of the virus, 1,705 yesterday. 1,420,000 Americans have it. Now, I have been doing a bit of a dive into the numbers this morning from the CDC. And it turns out that through May 13th, and again, yesterday, there have been a total of 459 deaths attributed to the virus in people under 35. Now, their total number of deaths is different than the number I just quoted you, 84,000. That comes from public sources that compile it in different ways. The CDC, lower than that, but the CDC says from their reporting, 459 people under the age of 35 have died. Another 973 people have died because of the virus who were between the ages of 35 and 45. So you've got about 1,500 people under the age of 45 who have died because of the virus. Each one of them tragic, each one of them leaving a family and tears, memories, and what ifs. But has any public policy adapted to this data? I'm not saying it should. I am just curious if any of it has. We'll talk with a couple of senators today. Senator John Thune, Tom Tillis, Chuck Todd's coming by, Lieutenant General David Deptula, Jim Talent's going to be here, Michael Oren from Israel. Let me break this down for you. Every day I wake up, there are four crises. There's a medical crisis, there's an economic crisis, there's a political crisis in the United States around the rule of law, which just went crazy yesterday. And there's a world crisis around the Communist Chinese Party. On the medical crisis side, we saw the rollout of remdesivir hampered. There isn't enough of it, and they're trying to figure out where to send it. We understand shortages. That will ramp up. We have learned from Spain this morning, according to the Financial Times, that only 5% of the country's 47 million people have had the disease. There's not going to be herd immunity anytime soon. Forget that. That's not happening. Even in a country like Spain, which has been just smashed by the virus, they're not going to get herd immunity. Big story in the Telegraph from Great Britain. Australia has been the lucky country. Relatively low death rate, relatively low infection rate. 7,000 cases, fewer than 100 deaths in a country of 25 million people. How did they do it? They just jumped on it and they shut their borders down. The economic crisis is going to be prolonged. The Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell delivered a stark warning yesterday, according to the New York Times, that this economic kit is without a modern precedent. More aid would be necessary. According to the Financial Times, he said the fiscal stimulus would be worth it. Again, I'll talk with the senators about that, but what Nancy Pelosi proposed, cash for cannabis, that's not happening. The real big story this morning is the political crisis, and we are in a political crisis. More than 39, well, actually not more, actually 39 different Obama administration officials requested unmasking of Michael Flynn at the end of the administration. It's so breathtaking. And I have to explain this. There are perhaps a handful of people out there who have ever held in the media talking to you today, somewhere a talking head, somewhere on television or radio or in the newspaper writing a column. There are a handful of us who've actually held top secret, sensitive, compartmented information clearances, the highest clearance the government can give you. There are a few of us out there. And there's a very, very tiny subset. I'm aware of 3, of whom I am one, who have actually processed Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act applications for warrants. There are a whole bunch more who have actually seen the intelligence. And what happens is that the government requests and receives the authority to surveil foreigners in the country. And those foreigners in the country, just imagine the United Kingdom's ambassador. How many Americans do you think that ambassador interacts with? I'm not saying we surveil that ambassador. We probably do. I'm not saying we do, but we definitely surveil the Russian ambassador and the People's Republic of China's ambassador and consul general. I had dinner with the People's Republic of China's consul general in Los Angeles probably 3 months ago. Probably surveilled. So they'll report that conversation. They'll record it. Maybe it'll get reported. And my name would be redacted. Ambassador Ping is his name. Had dinner with blank. The following was said by blank. Ambassador Ping said this. And any official in the United States government with cause can request the National Security Agency to unmask who that person is that was talking to Ping. You would do that if the person talking to Ping was requesting that Ping receive stolen goods involving intellectual property lifted from the University of California. On the other hand, you wouldn't do that if you were talking about the fact that I can't use chopsticks. Right? That's not really justified. Well, 39 people asked about Flynn's conversation with Kislyak. And that is just remarkable. There are two editorials today. Meanwhile, Judge Sullivan has gone off of the rails. He's the judge who has totally bollocksed up the Flynn case. I think he's embarrassed. Personally, I believe he's embarrassed by how badly he's handled this. I believe his incompetence is showing through. I believe his fits of anger put him in a category with Manny Real, who's long gone to the Lord out in L.A. There are some judges. He had a fine reputation until the last couple of years, and I think Judge Sullivan is old. By the way, you can still criticize judges in the United States. They can't arrest you, as far as I know. And I'm retired from the active practice of law, although I'm a member of the District of Columbia Bar, and I remain the general counsel of the Nixon Foundation. I advise a few people privately on what to do, but I ain't going before Judge Sullivan's court. Let me just say this. He's lost it. He has absolutely lost it. The Department of Justice, which has sole prosecutorial authority for federal crimes, sole, judges do not order prosecution, has moved under Rule 48 of the Rules of Criminal Procedure to dismiss the case against Michael Flynn. The reason is right in front of you. It's in Exhibit 4, wrongdoing by the FBI. Wrongdoing. I'm not saying he didn't lie. He did lie to the vice president. I'm not saying he didn't represent Turkey. He did represent Turkey. I'm saying that there was prosecutorial misconduct as evidenced in Exhibit 4, the Sally Yates conversation with the special counsel. And if you don't see that, you're blind. So the DOJ took a look at that, and a career prosecutor said, we've got to walk away from this one. So they made their motion, a Rule 48 motion, which is automatic. There is precedent, which controls. It's not Four Corners precedent. It's not a Rule 48 motion. It's a different motion. It's a case it's a 2016 case. Judge Sullivan has no authority to do other than dismiss the case. Instead, he's requested anyone who's got an opinion to file their opinion, and he's appointed a friend of the court to act as an advocate for keeping Judge Flynn tortured as he is. And I use that, not physically tortured, but mentally and emotionally tortured. This is an assault on civil liberties, the like of which I have not seen. And Judge Sullivan should be embarrassed. He is embarrassing the bar. It's a scandal on the court, and I hope the Department of Justice and Judge Flynn take an interlocutory appeal and get this removed from Judge Sullivan, who is out of control and needs to be rebuked. Absolutely out of control and needs to be rebuked. He is an embarrassment to district courts everywhere in the United States, because we are a country of laws, not of judges. Meanwhile, there are two editorials at the Wall Street Journal, the Flynn Unmaskers Unmasked and Judge Sullivan's Bad Judgment. Let me read them for you. Here is the latter. If the prosecution and the defense both want to drop a case, can a federal judge refuse and sentence the defendant anyway? The easy call should be no, which makes all the more bizarre federal Judge Emmett Sullivan's decision Tuesday to invite outside briefs in the Michael Flynn case. Judge Sullivan refused to grant the Justice Department's request to drop the prosecution, and thus Mr. Flynn's guilty plea, after Justice discovered that exculpatory evidence had been denied to the defense. The judge invited comment from people outside the case. That's just bizarre. Which amounts to de facto outsourcing of the prosecution to partisan legal analysts who want Mr. Flynn to hang because he worked for President Trump. One such band calls itself the Watergate Prosecutors, who includes Nick Ackerman. When Donald Trump Jr. released emails related to a meeting with Russian lawyer at Trump Tower, Mr. Ackerman declared him guilty of outright treason. As special counsel Robert Mueller report showed, the Trump Tower meeting amounted to nothing. Judge Sullivan doesn't normally ask others to write his decision, so what's the point in this case? I'll tell you what the rest of the editorial says when we come back. But Judge Sullivan, wake up and resign and get rid of this case, and I sure hope the D.C. Circuit steps in. I'll be right back, America. Stay tuned to the Hugh Hewitt Show.